Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Wherever you are.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
And you ready? F you.
That means Fun University.
We are doing a master's class in fun today. And if you want to have fun, you may as well get ready to listen.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're not listening or you're disagreeing with everything, there's no way you're having fun. It's just, or even if you're agreeing, because you're not really here.
Right. So the game is to really get here. And when you get here, everything you do is fun.
Shall we see?
Well, let's see.
You know, when you engage fully as if what you're doing is your idea.
So that means you don't do any tweets or play with your computer or write things down.
You're just here.
Right.
Life becomes fun. I had an example of that.
I don't know. I thought it might become boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Well, they could try it on as a hypothesis and see.
Okay.
I had an example of going from to fun the other day. I got my insurance renewal notice.
Mm-hmm.
And the only insurance I can get, because Shya has Medicare because he's over 65, the only insurance that I can get that will allow me to see any practitioners in New York City is really expensive. It was so expensive last year that I tried to get something less. It didn't work, but I'm still getting spam calls from people about health insurance. And it's going up a couple $100 this year. So I didn't want to do it. And then all of a sudden I thought my attitude about my health insurance, my attitude about my insurance broker was making me miserable. And I could go about it as if I was delighted. And I really had fun renewing.
Well, you know, that's an interesting idea that your attitude can determine your experience. You know, if you engage in what you're doing like you're not the victim, then suddenly what you're doing is your idea. And unless you're a Grinch, it could be fun.
Well, I realized that I had been massaging privately.
Your complaint.
Yes, and this idea that my broker didn't care about me, she was just in it for the money or whatever stuff, so that she would become the mental enemy rather than recognizing that I'd rather be right, that this is inconvenient, than just to do what I was going to do anyway.
Well, it could be said that being right, not correct or accurate, but right, is causes you pain.
And by the way, Megan, if you're listening to this, sorry about that. And you are doing a great job, because toward the end we had I called her up and asked her some details. And then I invited her to listen to the podcast and to come to the seminars.
Well, you know, yesterday, whilst you were out doing what you were doing, I was sitting on my little all-terrain vehicle in the boat barn, and I noticed that I had a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to it, and it was a woman with a very, very thick accent from Bank America, or Bank America. And she was my business consultant, she said. So I called her back because she asked me to call her back. And she wanted to meet with me about growing my business. And, you know, I said, oh, look, I really appreciate your call, but, you know, I'm going to be 81 years old. My business is working great. My wife and I work together, and I really am not trying to have my business grow. Grow is fine. If not, I'm perfectly happy with the way it is. And she said, oh, thank you for calling me back. Nobody ever calls me back. And it was like, I had fun with this lady, and I made her day. And she made my day. I just felt really good, because usually I told her, you know, normally calls like this, I don't answer. But there was something about your voice. I figured I'd say hello.
Sweet.
It was. But that's the thing, life is full of intrusions. Every time the telephone rings, it's an intrusion. Because unless you're vegetative, you're engaged in doing things when the phone rings. And that phone call is an intrusion into your life. And most of the phone calls we get on our landline these days, and quite a few on our cell phones as well, are these spam calls, these advertisements about my car insurance.
You can't believe how many times I'm trying to get extended insurance on a car I no longer have.
Right. Or we're not trying, and they're trying to sell it to us.
Right.
But so that's all an intrusion, or you can include it as the way your day is running rather than disagree with it and get angry and annoyed that life is not showing up the way you prefer. It is showing up the way it's showing up. And that may not be your preference, but it is what it is.
It's a little like a video game.
Yes.
Where if you disagree with something, you lose all your magic fun money. You go through all the ins and outs and you're fun here and you say yes there and then you say no, I really, and then you just lose all your bank.
Well, let's see if we have a caller calling in. Let's see what we can do.
Let's see if she's having fun.
Yeah, and we can talk with her about listening, because we didn't talk about listening.
Corinne, where are you zooming in from?
Hi, this is Corinne. I'm calling in from New York, New York.
Oh.
You're not in Long Branch today.
I'm not in Long Branch anymore. Yeah, well, for today I'm here, which is nice.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about listening.
I love that.
Yeah, listening isn't agreeing with what's being said. Did you know that?
Yes.
Listening is not disagreeing with what's being said.
She hesitated. She wasn't sure if it was a trick question.
It's all a trick question.
Yeah.
See, listening is like starting new, like you don't know who we are.
Cool.
Like you don't know what we're going to talk about.
And like you don't know who you are either.
Right.
It's a discovery.
And it's agendaless. That's something we haven't said before. But listening really is not going somewhere. It's not trying to get somewhere. It's not trying to make you better.
And it's not trying to prove anything. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do for you today?
And we're listening.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really glad I called in because as I'm listening to you talk, I could see how I woke up disagreeing with what was going on. And I just went about my day. And as I was doing things, I started enjoying them. Like I took my dog for this walk in Central Park and it was beautiful. Yet right before I was like, oh, do I really want to go? And just listening to you on the call, before I got on the call, I had like tension in my back and in my neck. And what you're saying makes perfect sense. When I saw the topic of fun, I realized that before I met you guys, when people would talk about fun, it would be like, especially with a seminar or a program, be like, oh, I don't need that. I want to do things that are going to make me better or get me further along or achieve something like you were talking about. And I see now that fun has, like, I enjoy working. There's different things I can enjoy that typically are not considered fun.
Okay.
So I don't really, I guess I had a question, which was, sometimes I just want to be over that attitude of I wish things were different or I disagree with something. And
But you don't really want to be over that attitude, really. Come on, Corinne.
I think I do.
I know you think you do. But the voice in your head that you listen to that says, I think I do.
Yeah.
The same voice that complains.
Yes. Yes.
The same voice that says, I really need to quiet my mind.
Yes.
As if both voices aren't the same voice.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed so far, I've noticed two things with you so far today, in particular. One, when you were talking about how you woke up and you didn't want to, I don't recall the exact words at that moment, but it was very invested when you repeated it to tell us the trajectory of your morning and how you took your dog out to the park and do I really want to do it? And it was a lovely day.
Yeah.
It's not a neutral reporting on either side. It's not an, I woke up and I really didn't wanna. It's, I woke up and I didn't wanna. It's invested. And then you talk about being with your dog and how it's a beautiful day. But when you report it, it's reporting how you're getting somewhere as opposed to a noticing. So first principle.
So are you saying there's an agenda in there to be a better person?
Well, to be better, get better, improve,
Yeah,
and either show to herself,
mostly.
and then by extension, show to others that she's improving or
That-
getting somewhere.
Exactly.
Or,
That she's not just the way she is, she's better than she was.
right.
Yeah, that's all change. That all lives in the realm of change over time. Everything takes place over time. It's linear, it's incremental, it's you're getting there rather than you're there from one moment to the next in an instant. There is no change. It's an instantaneous shift, a transformation in the way you are operating into life. It's not like when I get better, I will. And it's not that you say you're better, it's you experience yourself directly in the moment rather than I'm going to get there someday.
Yeah.
The other thing is, not that you're doing it wrong, I often call being on a Zoom video, now mind you, we're doing a video, people are going to only hear the audio of the podcast. But just before you spoke, I said, where are you calling? No, I should say, where are you zooming in from? And then you kept saying, I'm calling, which is an old thing from when we used to have the radio show on the Voice America Network. We always talked about calling in. And there's a certain, it's as if you're pulling from your
Past,
rather than really being here. It's not that you did it wrong. I guarantee
but
you.
it's an automatic way that we all, in computers, there's something called a cache
Mhm.
or cache, where it holds the last thing that happened. So you don't have to recreate it. It's already there, but it's not new. You have to hit refresh to find something new. And you're using old information about you and your life to interpret your life through because you're not restarting. You're not, like refreshing your
You're
screen.
not creating this moment from scratch. You're filling in with something safe.
That you know or think you know. So it's not your current experience we're getting, it's the story we're getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the catch holds the old view as though that's reality.
That's really good because Ariel, I didn't even notice that I had said calling. So you're so.
If you listen back to this, you'll hear you said it multiple
Oh,
times.
I
believe
heard it
you.
too. I was
struck
very
me.
aware of it.
But it's really cool because you're right. That's pulling from the past as opposed to just being here right now. So.
And again, I'm certain that people will listen to this podcast, and then sometime in one of the next Living Made Easy seminars, Shya or I will say, where are you calling in from? Or we'll say, we will use that word, and people go, see, they do it too. But we're not talking about you doing your life right or wrong. That's change.
Mhm.
When you said that word, it just opened a portal to me to realize that likely you had that share prepared and that you weren't really
You're phoning it in.
here.
Now you're really calling it in, as in phoning it in, rather than creating it newly.
I like that. That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one other thing, Corinne, you came to the last weekend seminar we did, and I feel like you're on the cusp of something new and you haven't quite fallen into it yet. You have a lot of things happening in your life, and often things that are wins. You started a new career at age what? Tell me the age.
I started my career at 65.
Okay, so you started a new career at 65, and now you're not only very successful, 2 years later, you're a top salesperson at the
Real
estate agency and
Mhm.
also in the region. So you're doing really, really well. So you often have experiences, information, wins to share. And it gets it gets diluted because you're trying to prove that you're doing well rather than just,
Or that you've gotten somewhere.
so that gotten somewhere chip that plays. Because it doesn't ever, well, it rarely, sometimes you break through that and it's just so inspiring, where I feel inspired to express myself. And then there are other times where I feel like the energy never comes across, and I feel like people heard it, but it goes flat. A little bit like what happened this morning when you made your statement.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel what you're saying. I mean, I understand it. You're right. There's a proving, like, I can't believe this is happening. Let me tell you what's going on. You tell me.
Well, here's the thing, baby. It's coming from you being less than you are. See that? It's like, see, I'm really screwed up and I'm really surprised that everything worked out, rather than everything around me works out.
And please convince me that I'm not screwed up.
Yeah. 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 And yet what I'm enjoying about my career and what's so much fun is that I'm doing things, I want to say from my heart, or just what I think I should do. And it's working, it's successful, it's happening. So.
But that's because you don't get who you are. See, you don't get that you are a successful person. And anything you do, you're successful at. Even those things that you think are failures, you've been successful at failing at. Because you hadn't wanted to do it.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yes. Yes.
Can you imagine if Shya and I would come on this podcast and say, well, we led a seminar and people really transformed. Can you believe it?
Yeah, we're not really that good.
Yeah.
Where I get it, yes, is when you use that as an example, or when I'm listening to other people that I see their brilliance and they're kind of like in shock that they're so brilliant. And I'm like, you're great, you're wonderful. So I see it in others, and I'm glad
But when you say.
Even when you say that, it's still saying that you're not just a genius on your own. Brilliant, period. Like, if I told you were brilliant, you'd be surprised.
Yes.
Rather than if I tell you you breathe automatically, you're not that surprised.
That your heart beats. You weren't thinking about your heart until I drew your attention to the fact that your heart is beating, but that doesn't negate that your heart is beating. It
That's
just
right.
beats. It was interesting too, when you see somebody do that, and then you want to go, no, you're brilliant. It's interesting recitation of possibility, because basically that person is requesting you to give them kudos or tell them they're good, rather than just be themselves. It's an attention getting mechanism.
Ah,
You know, we have some friends that came with us to Costa Rica one year, and they had their little son with them. He was about 2 years old.
mhm.
And we were in this apartment suite room that we were in this hotel. And the little boy was there, and he was sliding down the couch.
Mhm.
It was like the couch was his mountain that he was sliding down. And we were sitting there, and he said, "You look at me, and you look at me, and you look at me," to each of the people there.
And then it'd slide, and then it'd look at us to make sure we had followed his dictate.
Well, that's kind of what you're doing when you do I'm not really as great as I am, but tell me I am.
That's why I say you're on the cusp of something, because I really feel you genuinely want to share a possibility with people, but you're still coding it with, look at me, look at me, look
There's
at me.
an agenda that's proving that you're okay when you are already okay,
Over top of thinking,
that you're not okay.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay,
You see that?
I do see that. Yes,
Isn't that interesting?
it's very interesting.
That's
It's
right. Man, you don't have to prove your okayness. My God, lady, you're living you're now in an apartment in New York City that you rent.
No, we own this apartment.
So you own it, and you have,
That's good.
yes,
Well
I know.
done.
Thank you. And you have this house in Long Branch, New Jersey
that you rent also, right?
No, we own that house as well.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
look,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
You're just
really.
so unsuccessful.
that's right. You know, this woman that I spoke to yesterday from Bank America,
Erica?
I said to her, you know, I'm successful. I have enough money. I'm not trying to make more money. I'm enjoying my life. She said, you are successful.
Oh, I love that.
See, you are successful, Corrine.
But Shai didn't go, I have enough money. I'm enjoying my life. I'm successful.
You see, there was no defendedness in me about it.
Yeah.
If it comes through a interior defense, he was giving her a gift rather than defending his life. And in order to give a gift, you discover how wealthy you already are.
And wealth may not be in material possessions, but well-being is wealth when you're well with yourself. Now, look, there are 3 principles to instantaneous transformation. The first one is anything you resist persists and grows stronger. So if you resist the idea that you are not enough, you're not as pretty as the other little girls, or you weigh more than the other little girls and think you should weigh less, or whatever your idea of yourself that is not enough, that's what will continue until you bring awareness, which is a non-judgmental seeing, to the arena called your life. You know, as you see how you operate into life without judging yourself, then well-being can show up. Second principle is no 2 things can occupy the same Corrine at the same time. So you can only be exactly as you are in any given moment, and life shows up the way it does in any given moment. Third principle, anything you see without judging completes itself. You need to cough right now. Thank you.
Yes.
I know I choke you up.
This is just making her all for
It jokes
I got it.
You know, it's interesting. This podcast airs 3 days before Christmas. And I have a feeling a lot of people have gotten serious about gift giving and what they're going to do and what they're going to make and where they're going to go. And we're somewhere in there with Hanukkah. I don't really recall at this moment while we're recording when Hanukkah hits this year. But your presence is the real gift. Your well-being is the real gift.
And if you're well in yourself, that radiates to the people around you. And by the way, Karine, a lot of your success in real estate has come from your success of being well with yourself. So your potential clients feel better about themselves being around you. If you're not picking on yourself in your thoughts or worrying about making a sale, you can actually be there with somebody and they can feel your presence and they feel well in themselves. So you're actually the gift, lady.
So that's really sweet. And yeah, it's very true. And I do, when I'm working with my clients, you're right. It's about them. It's not about me.
Well, that may be the
Secret sauce to living.
exactly. The secret to success is not worry about you and your survival, but you got to keep breathing, honey.
I know you got a little frog in your
I got
throat.
like a tickle in my throat.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're allowed. You're allowed. I'm excited we had this conversation today because I really see how deeply you want to make a difference with people and how that proving thing sometimes
Always gets in the way.
Mhm.
It's not a sometimes thing. When you're proving anything about you. See, I remember when I started leading seminars 50 years or so ago. And the person I was training with at the time said, you can only have your attention on the people you're with or you. If your attention is on you, you won't make any difference with the people you're with. But if your attention's on them, a difference can be made without you doing anything. Just being there with them. And that's true no matter what you do as a profession, but you got to be willing to do it as though it's your idea. And I'm not saying this to you, Carrie, and I'm saying this to anybody who's listening. If you're in a complaint about what you're doing as though it's the wrong job or the wrong situation, and that if you think you change your situation, you'll change how you feel, you're in error. The situation or circumstance does not determine your satisfaction. You do.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
When you say when I'm with my clients, it's about them and it's not about me. I get interested in how you segment your life into clients, support teams you're on, husband, family. It's not about when you're clients, it's about them. It's about that somehow your agenda is showing, like you segment the business off as I'm going to be this way here because it makes good business sense. But there's a little doing being there for them rather
This is
than
interesting when you say this.
in a holistic way
because
of Kareem.
I've noticed that when there are things to be done, sometimes I don't want to do it. And I think that's not very enlightened. And so I override my I don't want to, and I do it anyway. Sometimes it takes me a few. Like we were up at a fishing camp up in British Columbia, and I stubbed a toe on the side of a bed because the frame was sticking out from the end of the bed. And it turned my toe black and blue, and the toenail turned black and like that.
Yeah.
And I was looking at my toe this morning and I said, oh, I got to trim that nail. And I thought, last night I said, I got to trim that nail. And the night before that, I said, I got to trim that nail. And I went and trimmed the nail. I think a more enlightened version of me would have done it immediately.
And even when you say that, Shya, I'm like, I assume you wouldn't have those thoughts.
But see, there's the difference. And this is the place you haven't caught.
Okay.
Think when you get better, you will be like your fantasy version of Shya. What Shya is an anthropologist who looks at his life with curiosity without judging the content of it, where you want to get better.
You see, if you want to get better, there's change. Transformation is really about seeing what is without judging what you're seeing. So if you see that you have this procrastination about doing something like getting the dishes washed, seeing the wanting to procrastinate is enough. Whether you wash the dishes or not is not the point. What the point is that you have an idea of how a better you would operate into life. So you're operating from some dictate about a better you, rather than being appropriate to the moment of your life, seeing what's wanted and needed by your universe, and then just doing it.
That's brilliant. Really. Thank you.
Thanks
Brilliant.
for calling in today.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to express my brilliance.
Yeah. Thank
Really
you so
great
much.
being with you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And for participating.
And, Corinne, don't worry, be happy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I love
thanks for participating in FU.
you. Great.
Hey, you want to hear about transformation?
Mhm.
We've got one of our listeners about to tell you about what's happened in their life out of listening to being here.
This is Sabina speaking from Switzerland, Schwanden. And transformation made easy is for me a really good possibility to fall in the moment and have connection with the people around the world, but also with the people who are really close to me. And it makes my life more easy. And that's really great.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shya's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have a Living Made Easy seminar coming up on the 27th, and Tuesday, January 4th is the Living Made Easy in the evening European time. It is translated into German. You're invited.
Living Made Easy is a 2-hour Zoom seminar.
For a full weekend with us, Eastern time, it goes from 8 a.m. till 3 in the afternoon. There are sufficient breaks for meals and coffee and whatnot. We have fun as the access way to enlightenment. That's January 8th and 9th. It's a Saturday and Sunday. And we discovered that we can just skip the resolutions on how to be a better us and discover how to actually have fun. And then everything takes care of itself.
Yes. And then we're doing Passion, Revitalize Your Life on March 5th and 6th.
You can find out about all of our upcoming seminars on our website.
transformationmadeeasy.com.
Also, in January, coming up now, we're going to Costa Rica. If you would like to join us and you've done a weekend seminar with us and are fully vaccinated.
In this year.
In this year, we are still, there is room for you, but it's closing fast. So again, you can find out more at transformationmadeeasy.com. All right, let's take our next guest.
All right, Katie.
Where are you zooming in from?
Hi, I'm zooming in from Chicago, Illinois, and my name is Katie, which you already said.
Thank you for repeating it.
Yes. Well, this is great, a fun topic. And oh, my building is being drilled, as you hear. Did you hear that?
I did, but we can just include the drilling as if it's punctuating what you have to say.
Right.
Perfect. All right, wonderful. So I have a question about being kind to myself and to other people. And I really see that as being tied up in fun, because when I'm being kind to myself, especially, I am kind to other people, and then things are fun. I have this idea that, so I am a designer, I'm a kitchen designer or a cabinetry designer. And I have two people that started working with me recently. And when they make mistakes, I tend to get tight and not have as much fun and want to be hard on, or I'm hard on them in my mind or in my thoughts. It doesn't, and it probably comes out, to be honest. It probably shows.
I'm sure when somebody's dissatisfied with you.
Yeah.
So you may not say anything, but you tighten up, your voice gets tighter, you control yourself, and you're not fun, and they feel it.
So when you say you have two people who work with you, are these people that you are managing?
Yes.
And are they cabinet designers also?
They have a background in design and they are learning cabinetry basically with me. So one does have a background in cabinetry. She's designed a couple of kitchens, and then one is pretty much freshly out of school, design school. So she hasn't really technically worked in the technical section of cabinetry.
Okay.
So they are learning.
So one of the things that it occurs to me, Katie, you haven't seen all of the knowledge and skill that you have developed and acquired, and somewhere you hold you as normal. So you get somebody new who doesn't have this skill set, and you then apply your normal to them.
Your standards.
So instead of like, oh, they don't know this thing yet, it's like, oh, they made a mistake.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you didn't. Sometimes, for instance, when we've been putting together the Being Here episodes, for a number of years, we've worked with different people coming up with titles and with descriptions. And it's really fun to go, oh, look, there's a typo. Or, oh, look, if we put it this way, we're going to be directing people to want to change themselves. It's not representative of transformation, but it's about looking and seeing and then showing somebody how you see, as opposed to getting upset when they don't know yet.
Well, I would guess that you put a pressure on yourself to get your designs of kitchens done as quickly as possible, as though when you get it done, then you get on with your life.
Yes. That makes sense. Yes, I can see that.
Right. And when you're trying to get something over with, it's not the same as creating something newly.
Absolutely.
So if you're trying to get over it, they'll be trying to get over what they're doing too, you see.
Yes.
Have you ever
Because-
heard the fish stinks from the head down?
Yes. I don't want to be the stinky fish.
If you're the head, you're the head. And that's a good thing, really, because you can do something about the way you're operating by bringing awareness to it.
So there,
That was good.
that was a good drill.
That was a good.
You know, it's fun too. I have to tell you, when I've worked with people, and for instance, we're editing and somebody, particularly when we've been editing books, and sometimes we have whole teams of people that look through, not just a professional editor, but all of us, and we like, oh, look, there's a comma out of place, or this is wrong. It's like you get 3 gold stars. We found that mistake. It's so exciting and so much fun. And it creates a climate where people can be really self-expressive, because sometimes brilliance shows up in those mistakes, what you might consider a mistake, a whole new way to do things you never considered before.
That's amazing. I think part of me too, I when you say that, it's like, well, I don't want somebody getting ahead of me. I have this, like, I also have that in my head, which I do not like.
Well,
myself.
Well, if you've got that, you don't want somebody getting ahead of you, then your apprentices can never be great, because they may shine and you don't get credit.
Right.
If you manage someone well, it's entirely possible that they will show up more skilled at things than you are. Every once in a while, in fact, recently on a Monday, somebody spoke up to someone who was new and wrestling with something. And she used an example that I never would have thought of. And it was the most brilliant thing. I thought, oh, wow, that was great. And if I was afraid that I was less because that person had the answer for another individual, wow.
See, in order for us to really be successful, we have to allow you to be more successful than we are, and not be envious of your success, but celebrate it.
I love that. Yes.
Really, the only way I can be successful is if you're successful. If you end up not discovering your greatness, that's in a way my failure. I only say it's in
you're a successful failure, and then we
yeah,
some people
and
are
I
determined,
contributed to it, but
because some people are determined to fail because they're so at war with their parents that they wouldn't let anybody else around them let them win either, because then their parents might have done okay. So in which case they're successful failure. That's the way it goes.
but you're successful at whatever you do. You're successful at doing it the way you do it. And if there's an ulterior motive in your failing because it'll make your parents wrong, then you'll continue to do that until you see that you're doing it and are willing to forgive yourself and them, because they have no control over their lives either. That second principle, life shows up the way it does, and you can't be different than you are in the current moment. Well, if that's accurate, and my assertion is that it is accurate, then your parents couldn't have done anything differently they did, and neither could you. So it's time to forgive and move on. or not.
I want to back up to your starting statement, because hidden in there is a nugget of brilliance that I think you might have missed. You said that when you're being kind to yourself, you're kind to others, and then everything turns out fun. And then there are other times where you're not kind in your thoughts, and you're not kind to others in your thoughts. And the example you gave was when the people you're managing or training make mistakes. But I'll bet you there have been times when these individuals have made mistakes, and it hasn't triggered that unkind series of thoughts interiorly or in your actions. So then the question is, what's the difference?
I mean, being kind to myself.
Yes, but why, if you have two same situations, apparently same circumstances, why in one are you kind to yourself, and then, and why in
Another
one are you automatically
self-chastising.
self-chastising or shaking an internal finger at them?
Stuck in a moment of judgment of myself.
Okay.
Sorry, no, I'm looking for the right answer. There may not be one.
I'll tell you I'll tell you what it is for me.
Yeah.
If I'm already upset and somebody does something, then I have the irritation. If I'm not upset, they can do just about anything, and I notice it. So when you find yourself suddenly getting growly in your thoughts at a mistake they made, you're already pre-upset.
Okay, cool. Yeah, okay, I saw that then this morning. Then I was definitely pretty upset this morning. And I don't necessarily, maybe nothing triggers it. I know upset can just show up. Or can it, or is it always triggered? Yeah, can I ask you about upset?
They happen when there's loss or some real or imagined threat to your survival of your relationship. Your husband isn't smiling in the morning, and you think, uh-oh, there's something going to go down that I don't want.
Or you don't have an agenda. We've seen it in a number of couples. For example, you actually talked about, you got to see a loner dog. You and your husband are looking at the potential of getting a rescue dog. And where you are, the dogs get to come over and spend the night. Now, if you had your heart set on this dog that spent the night with you most recently, and somebody put a bid in for it before you had an opportunity, that would initiate an upset. So if you have an agenda that doesn't get fulfilled, or for a number of ladies we've seen recently, they've had the agenda that now I'm ready to start a family. And then each month when they start their menstrual cycle, it's the setup for an upset, because it's the thwarting of their desire to start a family, or at least apparently. So it's not just here it is, it's like, oh no. Did that make sense?
Totally, yes.
So basically, you upset yourself with your expectation. When you have an agenda that you want to have happen, or a preference that you want, and it doesn't show up the way you want, that's a justification to get upset.
Yes. Okay.
And that upset, I have this idea that you should never make a life decision in the midst of an upset. But that's where most people make their life decisions.
That's it. I'm never talking to them again.
That's right. I want a divorce.
Right.
When you're upset, those thoughts, your vision gets tunneled. It gets narrowed down to how to get out of this.
Totally. I really see that when I'm upset. I say not so nice things.
That's right. You're out of here.
But here's the thing. I love that you see that. I love you're laughing at it. Laughing at it is an awesome thing. But when you're really upset and you say not nice things, either out loud or in your head, it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. The iceberg, you see this thing up there, but the bulk of it is underwater. So if you don't catch that, little complaints or little no's or eventually lead up to that, then you invest in those little no's. So I got the email from the insurance broker and I had, oh no, I don't want to deal with this. And then it was similar to what Shya and his toe. The next day I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with this. And before I knew it, I had created a complaint construct.
Well, you actually build a buffer between you and your life because there's this constant no, I don't want to that shows up between you and what your life is asking you to do.
And personally, I find that very exciting. I found it very exciting to discover how I was turning this poor, unwitting lady into an adversary.
And that's all mechanical, by the way. It isn't a volitional act. It's when you're upset, everybody's the enemy.
Mm.
Anything you see without judging completes itself in an instant. If I'm hard on myself for having had that attitude, then I will repeat it over and over. I may resolve it with this person, but I'm going to be out there searching for a new adversary.
That's right.
So personally, I find it very fun.
That's so cool. It's such a new possibility for me to see that someone, that I can just have fun. And
Here's the other thing. What's an interesting possibility is that you are the source of your experience. That your universe is a reflection of what's going on with you. So if you're upset, you've got something to do with that. It isn't the outside circumstances that are producing your upset. Look, I notice I have for years, 50 or more years, had attention on our environment and climate and global warming. I've had attention on 50 years, but I used to upset myself with it all the time. Now, I still have an interest in the well-being of our planet, but I don't necessarily upset myself when I hear about these environmental disasters that keep happening.
Upsetting himself does not support him in taking action.
Bless
Excuse
you.
me.
Bless you.
Just an action in and of itself in place of taking action. Getting upset
Keeps you from looking and seeing what is needed and wanted and producing it.
Yes.
Getting upset is never the answer.
So in a way, Katie, when you get upset with people you're managing for making what you call, quote, a mistake, it's a holding pattern. So you don't have to look and see what led to that, how to support it, how to communicate it, how to eradicate it, all of it. It's a holding zone so that you don't have to do anything about it to resolve it. But again, anything you see without judging completes itself in an instant. I see how they got there. Here's the step you missed.
Cool. Yeah, that is great. I mean, I never thought of a mistake as something that could be an opportunity to just laugh and have fun with.
Well, it's only really a mistake if you upset yourself with it. Otherwise, it's just what happened.
And part of the learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like I didn't make mistakes when I started. I mean, a lot. I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, I know this is an analogy we haven't heard for a long time, but Shy and I fly fish, and we do different types of fly fishing, but one with a single-handed rod, you have a back cast and a forward cast. And when you're not as skilled, you often catch trees or bushes or whatever behind you, or if you overshoot, you can catch one across the river if it's a small river.
Or if you're intent on getting your fly somewhere, you don't check your environment to see, can I make that cast, or will I
You're
catch a
just
tree?
forcing it out there.
Right.
And there have been from time to time when I've gone out fishing and we have a guide and you catch something. And there's a big difference between when we just unhook it from the tree or we sort it out, or if it's like, there she goes again. And it sets up an apology loop or trying to do it right. And then that's not fun.
Yeah. Yes, I see that in the in the people that I work with. I could see that. I think how I can set that up and also be the one to dissolve it.
One other thing, Shya and I have been leading seminars for many years, many decades now, actually. And the ability for a person to fall in the moment and to be here and hold it is far faster than it was for us. There's no reason why your
Apprentices
can't leapfrog your abilities.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
funny, when you told your story, I just caught something too, though, that I still have the agenda to make them better, because I was applying your story to my apprentices instead of just listening, instead of hearing what you had to say. So that was kind of fun.
You're fun.
Yeah,
Hey,
you're fun.
Thanks so much for
Thank you.
being a part of the show today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was lovely, lovely speaking with you.
Good.
Yeah, a shout out to everybody who is celebrating holidays now and being with family and friends and expressing your love. In fact, if you enjoyed this podcast today, you can express yourself by sharing with people if you feel to. You ready for next week's episode?
I am.
Worry Whirlpool.
Well, I guess I'll have to wait till next week to
Don't
figure out
worry
what that-
about it.
I'm not going.
Okay, we'll be back next week.
So come on back.
And don't miss
Being
being here.